Hi everyone, welcome back to another sewing tutorial. Front tie tops are super trendy right now. I'm sure you've seen them already, they're really everywhere. And today I'm going to show you how you can make one yourself at home, even if you're a beginner at sewing. I'll show you step by step how you can draft your own pattern and make sure it fits you perfectly. And I almost forgot to mention the best part, it's reversible, so you get two tops in one. So let's get started. First of all, you'll need some fabric. I used a cherry print cotton, it's 100% cotton, and I bought 1 meter of fabric, and I have plenty left over, so you would probably just need half a meter. Then you'll need your second fabric for the other side of your top. I recommend using a lightweight fabric to keep your top light and breezy. Then you'll need some fabric scissors, some pins, some matching thread. You'll also need some sort of paper while drafting your pattern. You can use pattern paper if you have any, but wrapping paper works just as fine. You'll also need a measuring tape, a pencil, and your sewing machine. And to create your sewing pattern, you'll either need a tank top with wider shoulders or a t-shirt, both of which should have a loose fit. This is very important since we are working with non-stretchy fabric. First, you'll need to try on your top or t-shirt. Place a pin at your desired length for your new top. Make sure that the shoulder area doesn't hang over your shoulder, so it should be like this. If you're working with an oversized t-shirt, you may have to alter the shoulder area and make it narrower. And this is the length I wanted my top to be, it's 50 centimeters exactly. To create your sewing pattern, fold your top lengthwise like this. Make sure the neckline and the armholes are aligned perfectly. If necessary, fold the bottom part of your top to reach your desired length. You should find the pin in there that you placed earlier for reference. And now you can take your pattern paper and draw out the shape of your top. As you can see here, the neckline of my top is round, but I wanted it to be a V-shaped. So I took my measuring tape, put on my tank top and measured how deep I want my neckline to go. Then using that measurement, I made a mark on my sewing pattern and used a ruler to draw a straight line across to create this V-shaped pattern. And then before cutting out my sewing pattern, I added half a centimeter seam allowance. The orange lines are where I added some seam allowance. After I cut out my pattern, I noticed that the neckline didn't look right. It had a bumpy part right there. So I took some scissors and cut another straight line across. The good thing is that you can alter your pattern as you go, and even after you tried it on, you can still make adjustments. Then I folded my top again lengthwise in half, this time to copy the back, and I did exactly the same thing as before. I labeled my patterns so I don't get them confused, and also this part will be cut on fold. I also added some seam allowance right here. And these are your two pattern pieces, your front piece and your back piece, which we will cut on fold. Now we can move on to the fun part, in my opinion at least. Take your main fabric and cut out two front pieces, make sure they mirror each other, and one back piece. And then do the same thing for the other fabric that you are going to use. In my case, it is this white dotted fabric. And these are all of your pattern pieces. You should have two back pieces, one out of each fabric, and two front pieces. Decide which fabric you want to sew first and place the other one aside for now. I'm firstly going to work with the dotted fabric. Place your back piece right side facing up on your table and then pin the two front pieces like this, starting at the shoulders and making sure the right sides of the fabrics are facing each other. It's kind of hard to see what I mean with this fabric, but you'll see later on the cherry print fabric exactly what I mean. Then also pin the sides of your top together and sew the sides and the shoulders together using a straight stitch. And I'm repeating the process with the cherry fabric as well. Then I've pressed my shoulder seams and my side seams on both of my tops. And now it's time to sew them together. Place them like this, so basically one inside of the other one, right sides facing each other and making sure they are aligned perfectly at the shoulders. Use some pins to make sure everything stays in place. Really take your time with this step. You basically want them to become one, so to create a single top out of two. So you'll need all of the lines and the shoulder seams to line up perfectly. Before sewing this together and putting everything together, we still need to cut out some strips of fabric to create the front ties out of. Cut out 3 strips of fabric that are 60 by 4 centimeters long. You can use an iron to help you fold them like this inwards twice. And they should end up looking like this. Now we are going to sew 2 straight lines across the long side of the strips. Then we are going to cut those in half to create 6 straps for the front ties for your shirt. I skipped on finishing the edges of the strips because they're so tiny. Sometimes I find it doesn't really make a difference, but you can add a tiny seam if you want. Now sandwich your straps in between the 2 layers of fabric and pin them in place. I use my measuring tape to make sure they are evenly spaced out, and I place them at around 10 centimeters away from each other. Now you can finally go ahead and sew along the neckline and also along the bottom part of your top, since we are going to turn this right side out through one of the sleeves. Don't forget to cut the edges to have perfect corners. Then through a sleeve, turn your top right side out. Press all of the edges using an iron, making sure they line up perfectly. Then you'll need to create a seam along the armholes. For this you'll need to fold the fabric inwards, just a tiny bit like this. You can use an iron to help you out. Pin it in place. This is probably the most tedious part, but it is worth it. Then sew everything using a straight stitch. And I've also decided to do a top stitch along the other edges just to make it look nicer. And this is how the front tie top turned out. I really like how it looks with wide leg pants. I think it's really versatile. If you have a fuller chest, you might want to add some darts at the sides, but you can just try it on before that step and see if it works for you this way. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to tag me if you do recreate this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.